sure that that's right. All right, so we're live on YouTube. I am going to monitor the YouTube as soon as I'm done sharing. My microphone's on, everything's working. If anybody, I'm monitoring. Also, I'm monitoring the. What am I monitoring? I'm monitoring. The YouTube and the Facebook tonight. So hopefully y'all can join us. Lots of big news. This should be a fun podcast. Brad Bonds, David, Sarah's at Heaven Hill. Aaron Harris, Wayne, Coombsy, just sharing to as many people as I can. Andrew Camden. I got two other people. Gotta share. I don't know why they don't come up. James, and it just makes no sense that. All right. The big guys. Send separately. All right. So we're there. We're done. Now I'm going to check out real quick. I know that we've got, what's your favorite bourbon? We're live, 9 people watching. Let's see. Is it updating? I should check to see if it is updating because I can watch here. Yep. Chuck Worley and Church is watching with you. I'm not getting people who's watching with me, but I should get the comments. I'm going to just see. I'll tell people to comment freely. All right. I probably typed that wrong. All right. So we're going to check real quick YouTube. Make sure that's all working live. And I'm going to monitor YouTube tonight. There we go. We are live, but I want to make sure. I probably typed that wrong. All right. So we're going to check. All right. There we go. We're already live. We've got. I didn't want to do that. Let's go back there. All right. So we're live on YouTube. I'll have to slide over a little bit. I will in a sec. I'll put this up here. I wonder, that's just so stupid what I just did. All right, I'm dumb. Let's go back to that. I got to put that higher. All right. All right, there's the chat. If I'm not mistaken. Skip to live. All right, we want to go to live. We're at live. I just put it on. Now, I'm just going to try and get perfectly in the middle. Let's see if that worked or if I have to come over a little bit. I might have to come over a little bit. All right. All right. I'm looking. Yeah, that's not bad. That is not bad. All right, everybody. Down to a much smaller splint. Hope you're healing well. That's what Chuck asked. Yeah, actually, yeah, definitely. They went with this brace splint that was. I have a lot more. I could take it off if it's itching. I can scratch it. I can wash my hands now and whatever. But this basically gives me some stability, especially if I'm getting ready for the podcast tonight. So that was something that was pretty cool. So tonight, everybody, we are going to be talking about the corporate aspect of who owns your favorite bourbons. Some people, a lot, there's people who know the corporations and everything and know everything. But even myself, from time to time, I find out different brands are owned by different people. And you're just kind of like, what? I didn't know that. I didn't know that person they owned it. But we're also going to get into a little bit why the corporations, although they own it, and some are Japanese, some are, they're not all from the United States, and they basically own other brands of spirits throughout. And we're just going to talk about that, and they distill this and they distill that, but it realistically, they left it when they buy a brand, they pretty much leave it alone, especially if it's in Kentucky. But even the other places. So I have the other one I wanted to. Uh, I have all these up, and I should have them in separate. And I think I will in a sec. Okay, there's one. I'll pull that out. And I'm going to pull out this one. And I'm going to pull out that one. And I'm going to pull out that one. And then we're back right where we need to be. Yep, right off that. They're all together. That's cool. I can use those for sharing the screen. That was one I wanted to see. Yep, there's the brands on that. Yep. We'll just talk about the different brands that own and ownership and how it works. Okay, that's what we'll do throughout the night. We can go over, and it's kind of a cool thing. So I just want to talk about the couple sponsors that I have. One is the Spirit of French Lick. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. If you listen to it on YouTube, or you watch YouTube, or you listen on the podcast formats, Spotify, the recorded, what I put up, you're going to hear the ads for the Spirit of French Lake. What Alan Bishop has set up. He has left recently and gone to Old Homestead, but Justin Wiley is there, and he does a super job as the head distiller, keeping it going. He basically is responsible for about, what would you say, 2018? We're talking about, for 2015 actually was the first stuff, and we're talking 9 years of laying down some really good bourbons and good whiskey, and also other spirits that Alan has done. And they're just going to keep coming. I mean, he's been distilling all this year. So it's kind of cool. He's going to be competing against himself, where he went. But the Spirit of French Lick has always been a sponsor. I thank Alan and Joe Lee, who are now at Old Homestead, for setting that up. But I also then thank Laureline and Brooklyn for keeping it going. We've got two barrel picks coming from them. So if anybody's interested in that, there were fantastic barrels that we picked with Alan before he left. Can't wait to get these out to you. But if you're interested, just contact me here on YouTube or Facebook. So what am I? Okay, so Jay on YouTube is asking me what I'm drinking. Tonight, I think I've got a bunch of different pours and everything, but what I'm going to be drinking is, I will be drinking the Blanton straight from the barrel. I was able to pick that up, so that's what I'm going to be drinking there. And then also, what I wanted to say is, where I wanted to come from is that also I have Rosewood Bourbon and Rye. That is Jason Giles. He has brought that brand back. That's another sponsor for us. And to get that spirit, you get it at the Bourbon Outfitters. Check out Bourbon Outfitters. Look up Bourbon, Rosewood Bourbon and Rye. It's the bourbon that Andy Dufresne was drinking the night that he was outside his wife's outside the apartment that his wife was cheating on him, and where there was a double homicide. And the Rosewood bourbon bottle is what put him in the Ohio State Reformatory, which was known as Shawshank, the Shawshank Redemption movie. We were there just recently, last Saturday night. El Presidente and Double O Kate came up, and we, with whiskey, and Sheila, happy 50th birthday. For her 50th birthday, whiskey rented it out, and 16 of us were there from about 7 o'clock till 3 a.m. And it was a complete blast. I'll talk more about that once we get this podcast going. And then You got the rosewood. Just check that out. I mean, it's the Contexian is my favorite, but he's also got single barrels and he's got ryes available. Also, he has an Indiana version. But if you check out the Bourbon Outfitters, you can purchase it and get it. Jason has been awesome. His sponsorship just started in June. We've got it up. You'll hear my voiceover read advertisement if you're listening on other formats. And I'm so excited to just have him on as a sponsor. And then also Alan Bishop. If you have Ghost, you have everything, the spirited podcast that deals with spirits and other occult type things, other occult type things, and aliens and just anything of the supernatural or the natural. He's got it covered, and that a lot of times it is uh, revolved around the spirit industry in both ways. And then also his One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute on channel on YouTube. You got to check that out. All right. If you like uh, distilling, that is one home distilling channel that you would just absolutely love. He just geeks it out. So you check that out. All right, we're going to get this rolling. What you're going to do is you're going to get a 30-second delay. And then once you get that 30-second delay, you will, that's the ads running. You're going to hear our theme song and we will start. So I'm going to give this baby a start right now. Here we go. Sitting on the sky, we give it a while, it's sure fun to watch. We love what we do, we're drinking every brew, and it's all sunshine, but we're telling the truth. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Modern Boys, raisins in hell, making some noise. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Modern Boys, we're here to have fun, and we hope you enjoy. We're here to have fun. Yeah! Woo! All right. Welcome back to another podcast of the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. Tiny here tonight, here to talk about the corporate bourbon ownership that owns your favorite bourbons. There are so many different ways that this is happening, but I just wanted to, it's so, what would you say, complicated these days, but we're also going to talk about coming up about how and why the corporations haven't wrecked. A lot of times when you go corporate with something that's a crafty type thing, it can wreck what's happening. And what has happened in the bourbon world with corporations owning brands of whiskey throughout from the, throughout, you know, time. I mean, there are certain things that have been happening in the whiskey world, and you just got to know that we're going to go over the different corporations that and the brands they own. You might know this and you might not know this, There's a lot of stuff to cover, but we're going to cover the big guys. Now, we're going to go over the general outline of them, but in the coming weeks, we're going to isolate them one at a time. Tonight, we're going to kind of do what would you say, the layout or, the storyboard on it, talk about it a little bit. Thank you. Love the back shelf too. So tonight, while we're doing this, I will probably be sipping on a couple brands that we're talking about and why we talk about it. But remember, www.scotchybourbonboys.com for all things Scotchy Bourbon Boys. I'm Tiny. We also have Glencairns for sale and also Scotchy Bourbon Boy t-shirts. And we should be coming up, our next batch of bourbon balls. Contact me either through Facebook Messenger or send me a message on YouTube. That's great. I'll get back to you. We could set something up. We work it out. We send it, shipping, everything. It's kind of a cool thing. So then also remember to follow us on all the social media formats, X, Facebook, YouTube, and what the heck? Instagram. And then also all the major podcast formats, mainly Apple, iHeart, and Spotify. But Amazon has us, and you also have, what's the other one? Pandora. So got that out of the way. But make sure, no matter what, everything you're doing, like, listen, subscribe, comment, and leave good feedback. We need that, especially if you listen sometimes if you're listening on Apple, please give us some good feedback. That just helps more and more people find us. The one thing that did happen this week, we went to 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. A year ago, I would have never thought this possible. We've had this year so far 27.1 million views total between all of our media, between shorts and podcasts and special videos on the events that we do. So, just check out the rest of the channel. That would be great. Yeah. All right. We got some good guys there. Making some funny comments on YouTube. Let me check out. Okay. Nice to see you, Joe. Thank you. And then also Timothy Winters, a good bourbon to go with the Opus X. I don't know. I find that usually when you're combining it, I would say that if you're talking about it, the general, I would go with Woodford Double Oak with that. That would bring out the flavors that I love in bourbon. I usually can't go wrong with that. All right, so with everybody out there, all the different brands, so many people have their favorite brands. Everybody has those recognizable brands. Evan Williams, Elijah Craig, the different brands that come from a specific company. Now, when it comes to the major corporations, there are some really big guys, and we're going to talk about Campari. They make spirits. You're talking about Suntory. They're a worldwide company. Formerly, just recently, it was Beam Suntory. Now it's just Suntory. And then there is Sazerac, another family-owned corporation. But and then you've got Sazerac, Suntory, you got Campari, and then you've got Heaven Hill, which is building the brands like everything else, but they're family-owned. This is a family-owned Kentucky distillery that still has control over their brand. And then there's Brown-Forman, and all of them create many, many different brands. Oh, and then also let's just go with the Bardstown Bourbon Company, because they're not only do they have their own brand, but they contract distill a bunch of brands. Now that's a little bit different. They don't own them. They basically distill and age them for the people, and the different brands. And they do a mess of brands at Bardstown, but also uh, they also own Green River now, and Green River does some contract distilling too. So you're looking at a brand like Bardstown Bourbon Company contract distilling, but then they also bought the Green River Distillery, which was formerly Ozzie Tyler, and their stock, and now they're putting out the Green River brand. Master distiller is Aaron Harris. That's some fantastic bourbon. I believe I did bring down. So you got Green River, and then you've got the Bardstown collection. This was the pick for the festival. But you got two different, completely different marketed bourbons owned by the same company. And that's what we're here to talk about. We're going simple here. This is but the company that owned Bardstown Bourbon Company, the group, it sold, and then I didn't go I didn't go far enough in the ownership group. It's out of Illinois, and I should just. Am I lucky enough? Yes, I am. I'm going to grab my glasses here and see if I can pull out. I don't believe it. I don't believe it's on here, but it could be. Oh, Owensboro, Green River. Yeah, that one is not there. And is it on the Bardstown? Let's see. Collaborative. Barrels, warning. I know the group, but it's just not ringing a bell. Maybe they'll come up. I'll be able to figure that out as we go on the podcast. But so there's one example of different bourbons, completely different bourbons, in my opinion, good bourbons, but owned by the same corporation. I'm going to just look it up. All right. That's an easy one to do. And I might as well do it. All right. Here we go. Town. There we go. It is owned by Pritzker Private Capital. That's what I wanted to know. They're, like I said, alongside members of Bartley. Yep. And they've done a good, ever since Pritzker's had it. I have not seen I've seen the high quality come out of Bardstown, and then they purchased Green River. So there's one example. All right. So I was able to get the Pritzker. Let's see. We've got, yeah. All right. Thank you for the stars, Joe. I appreciate that. Yeah, anybody sending stars, definitely appreciate. Now I've got to get this on the YouTube. All right. We should be able to come up with, I'm hoping for, what would you say, on the chat, for everybody. We should be able to come up with the super chat coming up. I'm hoping for that. I'm trying to set that up. But now that we're watching YouTube comments and also watching the comments on Facebook, that's something that is new. So doing this myself isn't the funnest to do it, but here we go. All right. So let's take the next company. I'm going to get that right here, and it's going to be the Campari Group. Now, Campari is a worldwide owner of spirits, but they only own one spirit, and it is Wild Turkey. But your brands are of Wild Turkey. You've got Wild Turkey. You've got Rare Breed, which is a barrel strength. You've got Russell's Reserve from Wild Turkey. So you've got the full line of Wild Turkey owned by Campari. But Campari owns a Scotch, Glen Grant. They own Canadian whiskey, 40 Creek. Campari owns Sky Vodka. the Cabo Wabo tequila. They also own a sparkling wine, Cinzano, and a Mondaro. So there you go. And then they own rum, which is the Appleton Estate, Kingston 62, Lamoine, Torres Rivieres, and Ray and Nephew, all different rums. And then they own a Mezcal, Montelobos. And then they own liqueurs, Amaro, Anchero, um, Sinar, Frangelico, Grand Marinier, Uzo 12. I mean, so you're looking at this company that distills. I mean, you're talking about Grand Marinier, you're talking about Uzo, you're talking about Ancho, Amaro, and then also they own Aperol. So they own a lot. So this company, once again, purchased and has owned Wild Turkey for a while. But what's the unique thing about owning Wild Turkey is they have not, Naresh, cheers. They have not seriously changed anything. You've got Jimmy Russell, Eddie Russell, and now Bruce Russell overseeing the operations out of Kentucky. Now we'll get into this in a little bit once we go through. So that's Campari. Now, when you go to the next one, which is Heaven Hill Distillery, Heaven Hill just purchased Widow Jane out of New York. They also produce the Heaven Hill brand, which they have bottled in bond, grain to glass, and then they have their Heaven Hill Heritage Collection, and then which is I believe that one they've got Heaven Hill 17 years, and they've got so many things through the Heaven Hill brand. But then you got McKenna 10-year. You've got the Bernheim wheat whiskeys, regular and whatnot, and then you've got Rittenhouse Rye, Larceny, and also Old Fitzgerald, plus other brands that they have are Evan Williams, Elijah Craig, Mellow Corn. So they produce this company, this corporation, which is family owned, but you got to say that they've gotten into the corporation aspect. They had a fire in at one point, which then they where their rick house caught on fire. It trickled down, burned down the distillery, and they've been distilling in Louisville ever since. But they've also distilling in Louisville have now been building a distillery in Bardstown. So if anything, being owned, they've kept their ownership internal, between the brothers, and they also do the Five Brothers brand, if I'm not mistaken. That's another brand that they produce. Yep, there's Five Brothers. Like I said, Elijah Craig, Evan Williams. They've got the bottle, all the different ones, single barrels, Evan Williams, 1783. I mean, they got so much going there. The Heaven Hill brand is unique, but it's run in a corporate way, probably because it's family owned and been in Bardstown forever. They are almost run even stricter than what they would a normal corporation, because they don't have those corporate dollars coming in. Their money is generated from their business completely. There's not a lot of extra money coming from outside. So that's the other big guy. And then there's the Sazerac brands. Now, Sazerac is a really, really unique company, in my opinion. They're New Orleans based, but their main distillery would be is Buffalo Trace. But these are the brands that they produce, and then they also own Barton's 1792, and that's their other brand. And we've had Ross Cornelison on, the master distiller there. It's a little different. 1792 is not open to the public. But Sazerac has a Sazerac rye and a Sazerac cognac. But then they've got their Buffalo Trace brand. They've got their Wheatley vodka, E.H. Taylor. They've got George T. Stagg. They've got the Pappy Van Winkle line. That the Pappy Van Winkles are still directly related. They produce it there. Weller's, the Weller line. And then they've got 1792 Barton's, which everything that Barton's produces, that's Sazerac. Now, we got the Blanton's, and I'm going to pull this Blanton's out. Blanton's is produced and distributed out of Buffalo Trace, but it is owned by a different company. The company that Sazerac, that company, I believe, is it right here? Is Age International. But originally, it was a Japanese company, Takaro Shuzo Corporation Ltd. Acquired Age International and then took it over. And then became Age International. So that is actually the brand. Now I could share the screen. Let's share this screen right here. All right, I should pick it. There it is. All right, we're going to go to share screen right now so I can show you. Okay, so then that's what Blanton's is. And everybody would think that Blanton's was owned by. And I'm going to one of the cool things, right now we'll take a little bit of a break and pull this out because this week not only did we have this awesome event with Freddie last week, Freddie Johnson coming up. But then on that Friday, there was a drop in the state of Ohio, which consisted of Blanton's Gold, Blanton's Straight from the Barrel, and Elmer T. Lee. All Sazerac products in the state of Ohio. For the reason the state of Ohio is on, what would you say, fire? You're looking at that. So there's the Blanton's. I was able to pick up this Blanton's Straight from the Barrel. So while we're going over this, I'm going to pour myself a little bit of it. Then they also Sazerac makes Southern Comfort. You've also got the Handy and Schiller Buffalo Trace pre-mixed old fashioned. You've got Merchants Exchange bitters. You have Old Fire Copper Vintage. You've got a rum, Jung and Wolf. You've got Port, Whiskey, Cognac, Legacy, DeForge, the Last Drop Distillers. So the Last Drop is like a blend, expensive bottle. You've got Eagle Rare. You've got Mr. Sam, which is a whiskey legacy. You've got Caribou Crossing. You got the Barrel Select, and you've got the Legacy DeForge, which is a vodka. They also produce, I believe, Sazerac Rye. I said that, and Sazerac Cognac. But they also make Rock Hill Farms. So they produce all this fantastic our brands. Is that what we're on? Let's see. Sazerac DeForge, Sazerac brands. No, let's just go. Brands. They're refined. I think that's exactly what I just went through. I was looking for. So the company, Sazerac, owns Buffalo Trace. So once again, why does a big company like this, how do they keep everything the way it needs to be kept? Now, there is the Suntory company, which was Beam Suntory, which produces Hibiki. It produces Suntory Japanese whiskey, very many Japanese whiskeys. And I'm going to switch over here real quick, and I'll switch back. I'll just quick go to, is it Bar Avenue? Yep. There we go. And they basically produce all the Jim Beams, Repeal Batch, the Bourbon Cream, Old Tub, Jim Beam. They produce Booker's. They produce Knob Creek, the Suntory group. But once again, They even team up with the Beam, with Fred and Freddie Beam to make the Legacy brand, which is a combination of Japanese and Fred and Freddie distilling how they go about things and how they age things and everything, and produce a whiskey that's a combination between the two. So it used to be Beam Suntory, now it's just Suntory, but it is the ownership group basically lets the seventh and eighth generation of Jim Beam, Fred and Freddie know, keep doing what they're doing. Now, to do it with the corporation, both of them will say it's not an easy thing, but they know what their great grandfather and great great grandfather wanted, and they keep that tradition alive at the Beam Company, and they've produced fantastic amounts of whiskey and built and remodeled and everything because they have the power of Suntory, Beam Suntory behind them. And honestly, what they do there is so, it's just like what they do at Buffalo Trace. It's because the people that work there are Kentuckians that live in the community and have pride in what they do. Now, they might have a lot more money backing them, and they might be able to produce more, and they've got that set up, but it was left to the people that run it and are part of history, and then have been hired, that have been trained by former master distillers or former family members. I mean, the Beams are in almost every single distillery. Now, what you might not know is that Suntory also owns Maker's Mark. Now, power. What is good for today is I'm having some Blanton straight from the barrel. That's a good one. And then I might finish up with a Beam product that I've got here. But so there you go with Beam Suntory. They give them the power to produce, but they're buying grains in Kentucky. They know how to do this. They're growing their own grains. They're doing unique whiskeys that they age and experiment in warehouses. They have the power and to go about doing it, but they also understand that marketing is still part of putting your feet on the ground, going out and doing what Fred's dad and Freddie's grandfather did, Booker, to revive the industry. They went around, they go around and talk. They do talks, they do dinners. It's a passion. They almost don't ever stop working. I mean, they might go on vacation and that type of stuff, but they're never stopping working. And they're able to keep doing this because, again, we'll get to it in a sec. Then you got Maker's Mark, owned by the same company, and the same thing. Maker's Mark has the support. They've remodeled. They've done everything. They've got beautiful grounds. Everything's been, but the Samuels are still involved. They make some really, really good whiskey. And we got to, when we were having dinner with Stephen Fonte in I want to say it was the old Louisville area where New Lou was, in that area. We were able to meet Bill Samuels and then also his son. And I'm just going to say the family aspect of being still involved isn't something that normally happens when a corporation buys you up. The story might continue, but the people don't. But when it comes to bourbon, there's still a reason. Now, the last one that we're going to talk about is Brown-Forman. Now, Greg Schneider worked at Brown-Forman. He was start with Seagram's. It turned into Brown-Forman. But let's just go over a couple things. Brown-Forman is, when it comes to whiskey, there's so many things, but there are three different brands that you'll recognize: Woodford Reserve, Old Forester, and Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels is the number one selling American whiskey in the world. The number one selling bourbon in the world is Jim Beam. And although it's Jim Beam has closed the gap. It's still not really close, but it's getting there. But that's what Jack Daniels is as far as sales of whiskey. But that's owned by Brown-Forman. But then you've got your Old Forester brand, which came out with their Whiskey Row, and they've got all different expressions, and they do. Now, I will have to say, Jack Daniels wasn't really on the ball while all this was happening, but they are now. They've got 10 years. They've got 12 years. I mean, they've got, single barrels, barrel proof. They've got a whole mess, and they kind of do a good job now. They got the triple. I believe I might have put, no, there it is. Jack Daniels. And I should I'm sure everybody wants to stop that share. Stop share. There we go. I'm back. And then I can pull this up right here. Maker's Mark is also right. James, Maker's Mark is. We were talking about that. Now, Jack Daniels, produces now a triple mash, and they produce a bottled in bond, all stuff that they didn't do before. So, I mean, there's a lot of different type things that are going on. And then you got Old Forester, and then you've got Woodford Reserve. You throw in Woodford Reserve. Again, all owned by one large corporation that's producing a lot of whiskey. Now, well, the last that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about Limestone Branch and Yellowstone, and then Luxco, which is Rebel Yell. It's Rebel. It is hold on. Ezra Brooks brand. I mean, and then also they put out the Blood Oath. And Lux Row is a great distillery, great place, but they're all owned by. Now this one I'm gonna do this right now. I said I was gonna do it. I know what it is. It's MGP, but MGP is now. Why is it doing that? I should be able to just go here. Oh, I don't. Am I doing something? No. All right. Plus, let's just go here. And then I'm going to do this. Hold on. There's something going on that I can't. Well, that one's not working. So, I'll do this one. I don't care. That's crazy. Let's call it up here. I can do that. There it is, right there. Who makes? Who owns Luxco? Let's just go like that. Luxco return. Now here we go. It says MGP. That isn't even funny. MGP. Wow, that is crazy. Let's say MGP new name. MGP new name. Okay, so they went back to their old, it's called Ross and Squibb. I don't know why I can't remember. And it's funny because that's where Ross Cornelison used to work. So they must have named it after him after he left. But anyways, it's Ross and Squibb, MGP. No, this is a channel I can get behind. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Cool. This is Ross and Squibb. They own Luxco. They're MGP. So they also produce a lot of brands. There's a lot of MGP juice out there that they distill for. They were number one in bringing brands in where people could buy their distillate aged and produce a whiskey brand. They had programs for that to start your own whiskey brand, and a lot of people did. Penelope is one of them that has since then been bought back by Ross and Squibb. Now, Ross and Squibb was the original distillery before Prohibition, and then once Prohibition, they reopened as MGP, and now they're back to naming themselves Ross and Squibb. All right, so that's Ross and Squibb is out of Indiana. They have been purchasing Kentucky distilleries. When you're talking about Luxco, pretty big. That's Lux Row. Which then was owned. They owned Luxco owned the Yellowstone brand that was made at Limestone Branch. So in that purchase, that was all put together. Now, what is the key? There's a couple things. Why? Let's just talk about this, and that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. What I want to cover. We'll get this into more detail on Thursday, into each individual distillery and a little bit of history behind each one. We'll do it with Sazerac. We'll do it with Jim Beam, when they were purchased by corporations and when they became what they were. And whether they started that way, like what you're talking about, Heaven Hill in the 1950s, and where there are not, we'll just go into one at a time and cover their brands and do that. Now, I'm going to have some fine and Sazerac, which is made by Sazerac, but is also not owned by Sazerac. That Japanese company wants to make sure that enough of Blanton's goes over to Japan. That's why they bought it. Now, this is so good. I'm just going to tell you, I'm not a fan of regular Blantons, but the straight from the barrel, it's what I'm in bourbon for. Now, I believe Blanton's and Taylor, Colonel Taylor, which I love, have the same mash bill. But what's different about this barrel strength is it was in Rickhouse H, but the caramel aspect of it, and then the complexity, and then the viscosity of this barrel proof was crazy. We are talking 128.8. That's like getting close to almost 130. This was put into it was bottled, it was dumped 10/9/23. So last October, let's see, barrel 514 Warehouse H. And it was, let's see, 31. I need to look at this with my now what's really cool, I really love the bag on this. It's like a leather bag. This bottle is not cheap. I believe it was $159.99. 64%. Rick number 31, Warehouse H, from barrel number 514, and the dump date was 10/9/23. I don't believe there's an age statement on this. Unfiltered, uncut, and bottled straight from the barrel. Bottle number 42. Surgeon General's warning. And let's see, straight from the barrel bourbon. I'm going to look at a quick look at this. That is why it says that this reminds each barrel until it is aged to perfection and is deemed worthy of Blanton's label. That is why our bottle carries no age statement, just the hand-marked information seen here, and that is why Blanton's is to the bourbon what the finest single malts are to Scotch and rarest cognacs are to brandy, a sour mash whiskey of a body, bouquet, and character unequaled by any other. Blanton's is, yep, okay. So the straight from the barrel, though, is absolutely delicious. It hits all the notes I want and has all the complexity that I need. Yeah, you're correct there, Gage. They don't, well, Eagle Rare 10. We could get into Eagle Rare has that age statement, but like you said, anything else like Taylor or they're but that you got the Eagle Rare that does have the age statement. But they do they don't put it on because they do a lot of heating and cooling of their distilleries warehouses with steam heat, which is something that people would call rapid aging. They don't call it rapid aging. They just make good whiskey. That's what they do there. So the last that let's just get into. So as bourbon became bourbon, the United States government had classification of whiskey. They were classifying what is bourbon and what not. But in 1964, yeah, Gage, I love straight from the barrel too. This this straight from the barrel is this one was fantastic. I mean, I just, it's a single barrel, it's straight from the barrel, and it's just you can get some good and bad ones, but this one is on the level of almost perfect for whiskey of what I love. It drinks the way I like it. It smells you pour it and you can smell it in the room. It's fantastic. But in 1964, Congress got together and they did kind of get together because of what Scotch and Irish whiskey had done in the past. It's like you can't have anything called Scotch that's not from Scotland. So they wanted to say that bourbon had to be made in the United States. So they made a resolution saying that bourbon had to be made in the United States. And then they gave some other rules of what made bourbon 51% corn. They said that it also couldn't come off the still any higher than 160, and it couldn't go into the barrel any higher than 125. Now, it could come off the still at 125 and go into the barrel at 125. That's not a problem. It could come off at 115 and go into the barrel at 115. Those are and then also it had to go into a new charred oak container. So it didn't say anything about how long it had to be in there. So to be bourbon, now they threw this in. They made a Kentucky straight bourbon, and then they also have bottled in bond. And bottled in bond is got to be aged at least 4 years. It's 100 proof, and it has to be aged in bourbon with the bourbon rules, aged in bonded warehouse that was stamp bonded by the government. That's bottled in bond. But the thing about that resolution is it saved the industry, in my opinion. For instance, I live here in Canton, Ohio. Okay, so Gage is saying they make great whiskey, smells like a field of flowers to me, and caramel sweetness and good Buffalo Trace rarely ever. Yeah, you're 100% right, Gage. I'm glad that you're talking on YouTube. I think this is now that we're doing this, it's really kind of cool. Jamie, did you get straight from the barrel? I'm not sure if you did, but if you did, I'm hoping, because the state of Ohio had some really unbelievable opportunities last week. Freddie was up, and there were bottles through lottery at 6 different locations across the state, liquor stores. And a lot of people were able to get an $8,100, that's including tax, a bottle of the Weller Millennium, or the $3,000, including tax, bottle of Eagle double Eagle Rare, Eagle double rare, Eagle double Eagle Rare. One of those. Jamie said he wished he could have. I mean, when that I was so happy to be able to get that straight from the barrel when I found out about it that Friday morning when that email hit. And then so these rules that Congress made up, which it's really kind of cool because as Jimmy Russell says, you could take a oak bucket, you could char the inside, you could fill it up with White Dog distillate that's made properly with 51% corn and cereal grain, at least 51%. And then you could walk it across the room, dump it into a bottle, and it's bourbon. Now, I don't know how it's young bourbon, but you wouldn't be able to use the bucket again. You couldn't then walk it across. It's got to be a brand new oak charred container. The barrel is what everybody goes by. Those are, there's huge amounts of barrel companies producing these barrels. There's just like, if you go to Kentucky, there's just so many rick houses from Bardstown Bourbon Company to Heaven Hill in the Bardstown area and Jim Beam, plus Barton's. They from 2019 till now, 5 years, the amount of rick houses that are existing in the Bardstown area and then also into the Frankfurt area is just amazing how much whiskey is being, they're rising up to the demand. And then there's so many new places coming on. But these corporations were buying the distilleries. They bought Beam. They bought Buffalo Trace. They started it. Heaven Hills held on to theirs. But, Ross and Squibb came in and bought Luxco. Some people build them to be bought, but at the same time, they're all, what they're making. They're buying these distilleries. They're from Japan. These companies, I believe Campari's from, I want to say Italy. Then you've got all these international companies coming in and buying up the bourbon distilleries. But they got to keep them in the United States. They can't move them. They can't make it in China. They can't make it in Europe to be called bourbon. And that's why they're buying them, because bourbon is the hot commodity right now. You got to keep them right here in the United States. So why with the aging climate of Kentucky, you wouldn't want to move it. So like I was saying just before, here in Canton, Ohio, the Hoover vacuum started and became the number one vacuum in the world. I mean, the best quality made vacuum. People here were so proud of it. But there was no referendum saying that vacuums had to be made in the United States, Hoover vacuums or whatever vacuums. And they basically were bought up by another company and then made in China. You buy a Hoover vacuum and it's not even close to what it used to be. And the thing is by them doing that resolution, saying it had to be made in the United States and it had to have these rules, they've kept the quality of the whiskey way up. Now, I'm here to say that I think that the aging climate of the last couple years, we've had cold winters, but not too cold winters, and we've had hot summers. So the hot summers really absorb, but we get cool nights and hot days. And it really, because what happens to bourbon in the really cold winters is it comes out of the barrel, it's not in the wood, and it just sits there during that really cold time. So that is an unproductive time for a distillery as far as in the aging process. Now, Buffalo Trace, Sazerac, they basically have been heating their warehouses in the winter so that it's just not sitting there doing nothing. This is another reason why I really believe the quality of the spirit is damn good. But what you have now is you have these Kentucky distilleries. They got to make a lot more. They're making it for the world. And they basically have to get bigger and bigger. But they're maintaining their history. Even Harlan Wheatley was trained by Elmer T. Lee, who was trained by Albert Blanton, who was trained by George T. Stagg, who was trained by with Colonel Taylor. I mean, you just go right there down the generations, producing fantastic whiskey, and and the Pappy Van Winkles, all that. And it's all still here, owned by large corporations, but it behooves the large corporations to not only keep the story the way it is, but use the people who are making it. These people are proud of what they make. They've been doing it really well. And that's really kind of a cool thing that they've got going on. And that's what I wanted to talk about. You've got these corporations, but why haven't they wrecked bourbon? Now, some will say they have. I mean, you're going to have some, but in my opinion, overall, what's in the bottle is pretty damn good right now. And I understand you taste stuff from the 70s, it's different. There's not much you can do about it. The corn's going to be a little bit different. The way they produce grain is a little bit different. They are producing on mass scale, bigger than they were, but at the same time, we still have not hit prohibition production of whiskey in the United States that it was pre-prohibition. So that's a really kind of cool, considering there's only 2 billion people probably on the planet back then, and now we have about 8 billion on the planet, and they were drinking a hell of a lot of whiskey, that's for sure. So, all right, let's see. Whiskey thieves. Bourbon needs winter as much as summer. I agree that it needs some winter, but sometimes when it gets really super cold, I think that the winters in Kentucky now, those mild winters, they do the diligence that you need, but it's getting the aging process as far as the in and out of the barrel to do a lot more stuff. Let's see. I wonder if the angel share is about the same. What happened there? How did I lose that? What did I do to lose that? Right as she said that. Okay. I wonder if the angel's share is about the same with the cold, dry air. All right. So the angel share. I would say the people at Whiskey Thieves understands the angel share more than us. There is a certain amount that evaporates out, either water or there's a certain amount of water. But just think about it. Let's just say the longer that you've got 20-year-old barrels, 23-year-old barrels of bourbon. In the Kentucky heat, yes, a lot of it evaporates, either the water or the alcohol, depending on where you're storing it in the rick house. You can also store it on the lower levels, which basically gives it a little bit more time in that barrel to not absorb as much stuff going on. But just remember, those barrels are being tasted and tested all along the way. And when you start out with 53 gallons, in my opinion, of distillate, you lose some of it, but all the angel share isn't always. I think it's partially the angel share is the thieves. The whiskey thieves. And we have them on there. I think some of it goes by in the fact that you don't lose as much to the angel share as you might think. A lot of it goes out the barrel through the whiskey thief while they're tasting and, setting those barrels up. I mean, when they send out samples of a barrel to people for barrel proofs, they're pulling whiskey out to do that. And then the same thing when they're testing it to see where those barrels are, they got to pull some out. And then the next year, they test them as you go. So you're going to lose some of that to the testing process, which is also considered angel share. So there you go as far as that. All right. Try Texas whiskey versus Kentucky whiskey. Yes, there's no doubt there's a difference in that hotter climate. I still think, and it's drier in Texas. I mean, we have a certain amount of humidity, but I really think also in Kentucky, you're talking about the grains, and it's not just the Vegas will suck it out so fast you don't even know. It also comes down to the time it takes. 6-7 years is the sweet spot for me, and you get in a little bit. You could go up to about 12 right there, and after that, you start to get, unless it's a spectacular barrel, you really start to get the woody, oaky tastes of those tannins. And some people love that. I'm not saying they do or don't, but just like some people love Scotch. I mean, that smoky stuff isn't, I mean, that's just aging as fast as you can. No winter. You have to cut that off. And the time spent in the barrel might only be 3 years to get to the same level in the barrel that took 7 years in Kentucky, but at the same time, those 7 years were able to slower give you more of the flavors of the barrel opposed to the 3 years where it's just whipping it out. I agree with what you're saying there. So the fact that that the corporations all were able to come in and do what they needed to do, but then become an ally to the distillery and allow them to do things. I mean, what the Beams are able to do with their new distillery, the James B. Beam Distillery, or the Fred No Distillery, they're now revamping the Booker No to have an experience down in Boston, and you've got the regular distillery and all the experience. This stuff, the amount of money you need to do this is enormous, and you need that help to do that. So there you go. Great podcast tonight. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Look forward to talking again Thursday night at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. We will be going live again this week, and so make sure you're with us then. We're what was it? Okay, yes. Open-bees.com, their bourbon raffle is still open. I want you, if you get a chance, go get a raffle ticket because it helps the kids. This is a charity cause. It is 100% legitimate. Christy has done a fantastic job with it. The bourbons, you got to go to open-bees.com and look at their second annual bourbon raffle and see what's available. So you got a shot at some amazing bourbon, but also you're going to be helping kids. So even if you didn't win bourbon, I'd still ask you to help the kids. But go there, check out that raffle. What Christy's doing is amazing. She helps kids with learning disabilities get the help they need to get their IEPs in school and there's so much that they do to help families and kids. It's amazing. So check that out, open-bees.com, and get into their second bourbon raffle. All right, so let's see. Gage says, you take into account that year of grain corn and the oak trees, how long the trees have been there to make the barrel. All these things may vary from year to year. Oh yeah, they do. But the replenishing of the oak and what they do and how they do it is an amazing process for those cooperages, and they stay diligent and they season that wood. Some people pay for it to even season 4 or 5 years, not just months. I mean, it's really cool how they make the barrels. There's no doubt about it, but it all affects it. But also, we've been just having these fantastic warm summers, and it's just been perfect aging, in my opinion, for whiskey in Kentucky and here in Ohio. I just think that even the bottom shelf bourbons are better these days than they were when, maybe 6-7 years ago. They're just producing this and getting really, really good aging weather. Let's see. Hey, Michael, good to see you. Glad that you're watching. So, I think I got that covered. All right. So we did that first part and then we went to Gage, but remember www.scotchybourbonboys.com for all things Scotchy Bourbon Boys. And then also check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and X, and then also all the social media podcast formats, Apple, Spotify, iHeart. Check that out. And then real quick, Gage says that he's noticed that the whiskey is very good and sweeter, and I would have to agree. Those hot summers from 2015 to 2024, the caramely taste, this Blanton's, like I said, not a huge fan all the time of Blanton's. I got a bottle of Blanton's that I do like, but I got a couple that are too oaky, whatever. They don't do it for me. but this straight from the barrel is fantastic. But then again, remember, I think I said Apple, iHeart, Spotify. But remember, like, listen, subscribe, comment, and leave good feedback. That helps us out. And I'm going to start it tonight. Good bourbon equals good times and good friends. Remember, drink responsibly, don't drink and drive, and live adventurously. Little Stevo is going to take us out.
Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. Show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. For if we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die. I tell you, I tell you, I tell you we must die.
All right, it's going to play another song, so I got to get that out of there. All right, stopped recording. Let me just really quick do my extra. I don't need so much audio magic because there was no one here, but you can shorten my pauses, improve my clarity, and I'm just going to file, publish for uploading. And we call this big guys. All right, I'm saving. Okay, so we're still live on Facebook and YouTube. Gage, thanks for participating. I see that Anne. I hope you didn't leave right away. I know I was finished, but not finished on Facebook and YouTube. If you're there, Anne, I just wanted to say that the event and then the Friday thing was amazing. Great drop. The state of Ohio and the people really were able to get a lot of the product that they want that you just don't see around for the price that you want to pay. I mean, and then you're just getting such spectacular bourbon. If anybody wants to, I'm going to stick around as long as people want to listen to me tonight. I think my wife is upstairs. The YouTube channel's doing pretty good. Tonight we were just talking about all the different, it's like, did you know that the same company, which would be Ross and Squibb, owned Yellowstone, and then they owned Luxco, which makes, so they're all tied together, even though they're completely different distilleries. And then that Ross and Squibb is MGP, and there's so many MGP alcohols out there. Plus, Penelope brand is, so these big corporations own all these distilleries, but they leave them alone. I mean, but normally they, when a corporation buys these distilleries and other distilleries, they kind of, let's just say, put the production together and don't make them where they used to make them. Now, I'll give you an example in a brewery, Pabst Blue Ribbon. Talk about been passed around. Used to be made in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Now where it's made, I have no idea, but I'm pretty sure it's not being made in Milwaukee at the moment. But if it is, it's not being made by the same company that used to own them. They just brought them the rights. Now, there are brands that are coming up that get stored and aren't being made, and they keep the brand alive, but they usually have that passion to try and keep, the branding and the flavor profile somewhat halfway decent and true. I mean, when you look at what old Jet Brothers, they actually had Neely had a bottle that they were shooting for a flavor profile. You've got, these corporations. For instance, Brown-Forman owns Jack Daniels, the largest selling American whiskey in the world, but they also Forester and Woodford Reserve. Woodford Reserve is a pot still, column stilled bourbon that's mixed together. Old Forester's a column stilled bourbon, and then Jack Daniels is a Tennessee whiskey bourbon that is put through the wow, the fact that the county, oh my, Lynchburg County, oh my God, there's a process, the Lincoln County process. Thank you. God, I'm getting old. It doesn't seem that Anne is here anymore. It's like, but I want to thank her for that. That was amazing. All right, let's just see. Did I when I saved it? Published to. I want to just make sure it didn't go. Let's see. Publish from. Oh, it went to the right place. All right, so that is done. Um, that's cool. I could take that off. One of the cool things that I did this weekend is Randy Prass, and which is our El Presidente and the president of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, came up with his significant other, Double O Kate with him, and we went to the Ohio State Reformatory. It was from 7 p.m. till 3 a.m. Whiskey through his wife's 50th birthday party, and this was her present. And we had 16 of us ghost investigate the Shawshank. It was pretty cool. If anybody's ever been up there, it's amazing. One of the things I sometimes I get not get creeped out because of the amazingness of I've never been in a prison. I've seen movies, but to actually be in the prison at night, lights out, walking around, looking for, I mean, it was cool. Had a couple of experiences. Had my shirt grabbed when you could tell that the mark was still left for where that was pinched and grabbed. That was really kind of a cool thing. And then we also we all were given a K2 meter, which senses disturbances of energy around it, and there was some cool stuff. There's some bats, the chapel, the whole grounds was amazing. It's something that if you ever get a chance to do, you can't miss, because it was just really, really cool. And the 8 hours that we were there just went like that. And one of the things I want to say with my hand is healing enough that I can snap, which to me, after 2 weeks of fracturing my wrist, I still have the brace, but it was kind of cool that it's healing the way it is. I'm very happy. I went to my deep muscle therapist. He was able to help my shoulder out. Have a beer? Did you have a beer on the roof? There was no alcohol allowed on the premise. And when you go as a guest to somebody that's spending a lot of money to rent out a space, you respect that. Now, we did have, before we went in, we had a toast with straight from the barrel, and kind of enjoyed. We had some dinner. Yeah, Walter, I did think that was you. I figured that. I kind of like had to. I made the dot to dot. But I mean, to go to Shawshank and see the whole movie aspect and see that they set up certain sets in there, they have them there, and then to touch the prison cells at all, except for what they did for a movie, but all the rest of them individually, going by the prison cell where one of the prisoners started his cell on fire, or himself on fire. And I thought there might be a little bit more activity, but Yeah, it's the iconic moment, but they don't want people falling off. It's like there's a in the East Wing, you're up 4 stories, and the railing is just right up to your hip, and you've got this little 4, maybe 3-foot walkway that you're on next to the cells. You have to be careful. Now on the other side in the West Wing, the bars go all the way from top to bottom of all the different floors up there, like a giant metal bird cage. With It's just fantastic. And then to be there at night, walking through each cell, going into solitary confinement, just really a cool experience. That was for sure. um Anyways, all right. So if anybody had any more comments, it was great, Gage. That was super. Our first YouTube, and then we've got Walter on. Let's see. Yep, we've got Walter tonight on as the Whiskey Thief Distilling Company page. That was great. Andemic popped in for a second. Michael from Luca Mariano came in. So it was a lot of fun tonight, that's for sure. We had, decent amount of yeah. So, all right. So I'm gonna sign us off of Facebook, and then we're gonna get off of YouTube, and I'm gonna go load this for Apple, and then Spotify and iHeartRadio. All right, everybody. Here we go. Good night. Here we go. Stop. All right. So we're done there. I'm gonna turn this off of YouTube. Let's see what we got. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea how this went, but we'll see. Got 7. Let's see. Good night, everybody.